Hello folks, and welcome back to another Redstone Concepts video. In this video we're going to talk about advanced item filtering, and this is sort of a sequel to my previous item filter video, which obviously was a little bit more simple. So in this video we're going to address a few complications, problems with that simple item filter, which is perfectly fine in most situations, but at some point you might realize I need something a little bit better than this. So I wanted to get that out there so that you guys were aware, if you're watching this series of videos, that you'll see the simple version, but now you'll see why the advanced version is a little bit better. Before I get into things, I'm going to explain that my version of the advanced filter is a little bit different than what most people have decided that they like. I've made a choice in my filter that goes against one key element that most people consider to be one of the most valuable things in building redstone contraptions, and that's compactness. They like things to be smaller and take up less space, which ultimately means less resources. And in theory, you should be able to make it more efficient, but I think that oftentimes when it's more compact, you have to make more loops and hurdles and different design choices to prevent redstone interaction when it's as compact as it possibly could be. So, I ended up making a choice to avoid any sort of complications and go with a 2-wide tileable item filter rather than a 1-wide tileable item filter. And I'll get into that. I'll explain it in my choices as we go along here. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is my advanced item filter. It's actually fairly similar to the normal item filter, the little one that I showed off in a previous video. That's this one here. So you see we've got filter, the comparator running off of it. It's set up so that it's providing 1 block of signal strength, and when it gets the next item, it goes to 2, clicks to this one, and allows this hopper to pull it out and put it into this chest here, and there you go. That's the filter. If you're at all curious about more explanation, go watch my other video. That's all I have to say about that. So that entire section is basically duplicated right here. You can see it right there. So we've got the filter right there. There's the one item that's always stuck in the system, and here's the items that got filtered out into the bottom of this. Okay, so what we've done is basically just taken advantage of the principle of this sort of watching the fullness of this filter hopper. And when it clicks over to 3, what it does is it activates this signal up here to put on a light that says that this slot is full, and also extend a piston to stop the filter hopper from accepting items. So real quick, we'll just watch it in action. I'll dump in some diamonds, and you'll see they're popping into the filter hopper and being put into these chests. They're running through the hoppers. You actually can't see them, but they're flowing in here. There you go. So there are the items coming out. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Get the last of these, so I got all the items back. Now what happens when it's an overflow? Let's assume it's an overflow by just activating this. So what I guess I should explain. When this filter starts to fill up to the point where it sends 3 blocks of signal, it can still accept items, which means it can still put items into the system. Essentially, this is now the last bit of storage. It can still accept items, but when it gets up to the point of 3 blocks, that's when it will turn off this torch, activate this one, allowing the piston to extend. But we can manually trigger that just by breaking this torch, and now it's extended. So what happens now is even if diamonds are put into the system, they just flow right on past. They do not come into this filter, and they end up continuing along in the item stream. So there you go. There's my advanced item filter. I am going to mention that since it's not one-wide one-wide tileable, it's actually 2-wide, and there will be a gap between each slice, each filter, and there won't be any redstone interaction. You actually really don't need to watch the fullness and send it off on the third, when it gets to 3 signal power. You could just let this thing entirely fill up, and it would basically behave the exact same way, that once this is completely full, the filter item, in this case diamonds, would no longer go into the hopper and would continue to flow through. So the only reason I decided to keep it in there is really mainly because I could watch fullness, that I could have an indicator light on the outside, because there's really no way to slap a comparator on the other side here because of this chest and everything. So, I mean, you probably could come up with a different design, but hey, I'm just saying, this is how I decided to go about it. So if you don't like it, I'm giving the option to design it different. Totally up to you. Okay, so I want to now talk about why I came to this conclusion of why this is what I want to do for item filtering. So again, to come back, this is the example of the simple item filter. This one is one wide tileable, so let's go ahead and see that one, what it looks like when it's one wide tileable. And that's this guy here. Okay, so we got all the chests lined up. This is the facade, so it looks really nice. You can't really see the inner workings. Very nice. I appreciate that. And then we've got the tiles for the filters all set up side by side in one wide slices. And these first two I've actually set up with filters here, so I've got a couple different configurations of the items in here. So I believe I made mention that this is something that if you're okay with the potential drawbacks of this system, you could go ahead and use this. It just has a problem where if these filters start to fill up beyond the point where they're sending 2 blocks of signal and end up sending 3, then you get redstone confusion. The reason why it never has confusion prior to that is because when it is sitting at 22, it's sending 1 block of signal strength. So it's just 1 and then 0 on all adjacent parts. So it's not interfering with the filters up and down here. And when it's at 2, if I were to drop another item in there, it goes 2 here, 1, 1, 1. But these are already at 1, so it doesn't matter. So you're only sending signal to the part of the circuit that matters for that particular filter. Now when it goes to 3, that's when you have an issue, because now it's going to go 3, 2, 1. So now you're sending signal to these other ones up and down the item stream, which end up activating the circuits for the other filters and thus pulling items out of the filters when you don't want to. This ends up destroying filters up and down the system. The more this one would fill up, the more problems you'd have, and you'd have broken filters and have to get back there and fix it. So most people like to try to figure out some way where there's either no redstone entanglement or confusion, or they want to come up with some way where there's overflow protection so that this one will never overfill. And there's not really a simple way to go about doing that, but people have come up with ways and designs to keep it one wide tileable. Hats off to them, but I've got my own way of doing it anyways. Okay, so the other part of a trick to this design is the fact that we've got chests stacked up right next to each other, and anyone who's tried to place chests might know that this is not something that is a normal property of double chests. And that's because they aren't all double chests, regular double chests that is. Each other chest is a trap chest, so I'm going to duplicate them in my hand here. This chest here is a regular chest, and this one is a trap chest. And that's how you're able to alternate between the two and keep them right next to each other. But that actually introduces a problem into the system, because when you open trap chests, what happens is they send redstone signal to the blocks that are adjacent to them, which means they're actually going to shut off the hopper that's meant to put items into them. The short explanation of that is basically whenever you're opening a trap chest, you'll never see items flowing into it. You'll always halt the ingest of items. So you may be thinking, well, that okay, all those items that I stopped when I opened the chest will flow into the chest once I close it. But that's not entirely true. The reason being is that when these torches, these are the torches basically responsible for pulling items through the filter. And what they're really doing is they're allowing this hopper to pull items out of this hopper here. They're not saying that they want to empty the contents of this hopper. So once you've started to fill up items into this hopper, let's say we had an additional stack in here, these items will only come out if you have items flowing into the system from the filter above, because that's what's triggering this torch turning off. Basically what I'm saying is the longer you open up a trap chest, the more you're going to create a clog in the back of this, to the point where the item hopper fills up, and at that point then the filter hopper fills up. And that's just going to be a property of this. And it basically means that it's hiding items from you that you can't access. It's going to inadvertently create overflow and create the issue that occurs with this design. Now, I briefly decided that I was going to try this design to avoid that issue of the trap chests creating overflow. So this one alternates just basically zigzags regular chests up and down, and all I'm doing is adding an extra hopper every other slice to achieve that. Now, it's a less appealing facade, I'm going to admit that, and it also doesn't solve the problem of the fact that you would have overflow creating issues, because you will get natural overflow just from throwing too many items into the system. Even if you remove the trap chest, that's really not the problem. So what I found was like, okay, well, I just made the design ugly, and really didn't solve all the problems. So there's two ways to go about the next issue. That's either create some sort of redundancy or protection into this one wide tileable slot to prevent this thing from ever sending 3 blocks of signal. That's one way to go about it. Not necessarily easy, not necessarily, I would think, compact. Then even if you do that, you still have to make sure that there's no redstone confusion from tile to tile. What I realized is that just in this one design alone, all I did was add an extra hopper per slice. Well, an extra hopper per every 2 slices. So I thought, well, what if I had an extra hopper per slice? All I'd have to do is take that hopper and stick it in between there. And then you could have basically the same filter. You'd have no redstone interaction. When a hopper fills up, it fills up. That's it. It stops collecting items, and items go on their way. So that's your own way of solving item overfill. And it removes trap chests. It removes all the issues. And all I thought was like, well, that's really simple. All you have to do is slap an extra hopper, 1 extra hopper. You're talking about 5 iron and 8 wood planks. That's it. So I felt like that was actually resource friendly and ultimately solved a major issue. And all it did was it was at the loss of compactness. So basically, to do this same amount of item filters, you just have to double the amount of space. But is that really that big of a loss? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, everything you'd have to put into this thing to make it one wide tileable, I think you're using more resources than 5 iron and 1 chest. So lo and behold, that's why I settled on this design here. And I want to show you guys the different ways you can configure this. So the way the items flow into this system, you have this double chest here, which ordinarily is not going to be a chest you can access, but all of these other chests you can. So it's going to put items into this double chest, and then to keep it away from any sort of redstone confusion, this chest prevents any interference. All the items start to flow into these hoppers. And the way item transfer priority happens with hoppers, even though these are pointed to these chests, if a hopper sees that there's a hopper below it that has a slot where the item can go, it will go down to that next hopper. It's just hopper priority. Regardless of the fact that it's pointed that direction, it's going to say, hey, I can go down. I'm going to go down rather than go across. And once it can't go down anymore, then it's going to go in the direction that the hopper's pointed if there's a container there. So that's how we do this. So you just basically, however many chests you want to build, you just would keep stacking them up and slapping a hopper pointed in the back of it. And that's what you do. So it's going to fill from bottom to top. The items will always come in to this last hopper, fill up this chest. When this chest fills, this hopper will fill. When this hopper fills, this hopper will start putting items into this chest. And so on and so forth. Fills, 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 and then that fills. And that's how the items will fill up throughout the entire system. But you could also do a stair-step design. And the reason why the stair-step design might be interesting is that if you had this whole contraption built around some sort of minecart system where you would be able to essentially remove mass quantities of an item and transfer them to somewhere else in your game world very quickly, you might want to quickly be able to access all of the chests that you've built into your system. So in this example, I've got 3 chests built into each slot. So what I would be able to do is be able to empty half of this chest, throw it into a minecart, empty the other half, put it in this minecart, and then I would have to wait for everything to come down. No, what you would have to do is just go to the next chest and pull into the next items out of that chest, and you just start emptying everything out. So the stairs are useful in the sense that you'd be able to access all your chests fairly easily. You can access the chests fairly easily with this up and down design. One way is just don't build higher than you can reach. The other way is you could slap a ladder on the sides here. Since they're one wide tileable, you'd have another section here where you could put a ladder for the other one, or for the same one, doesn't matter. Problem is that once you get up on the ladder, and even if you hold shift when you open a chest, you're going to start falling down the ladder. So it gives you like a limited amount of time to actually pull items out of the chest. So with that in mind, you could actually really interchange the designs. You can always go stair step straight down and then stair step again, or go stair step up to a point and then go straight up. So you could leave like the bottom 4 in a stair-step design and then have it go straight up, and that would allow you to conserve space but also give you some accessibility. Totally up to you guys. I don't really care. That's just how I've built it. And to give you guys a sense of where I'm going with this, this design here can be configured in multiple different ways, and I've decided to build what I'm calling stadium storage. You may have seen this thing pop up in some of my videos since I've been working on it, but it's definitely a work in progress. I don't really want to go over there and show you everything about it, but I'm working on making this thing a really awesome, fully sortable system that not only sorts stackable items, but I'm working on unstackable and trying to come up with the best solutions for every one of those, and really try to rethink what everyone else has done at this point. On that note, I am going to say that I'm very grateful that there's a large resource of videos out there on YouTube for Minecraft, because without those videos, I wouldn't be in the position I'm at. This is all sort of like, I believe, collective learning and collective trading of ideas so that people can really kind of say, okay, what did this guy come up with that works, and how can I use that in my own situation? So what I'm trying to do with my videos is offer you just my flavor of how to do these things. And if it works for you, that's great. I think it's great to always look at a number of different videos to see how people have come up with different designs and come up with something that works for you guys. So hopefully my videos give you guys a spark of inspiration, or you guys really just like my ideas. That's it. Okay, with that bit of video philosophy, or Minecraft philosophy, I suppose, I'm going to call it quits for this video. That's my advanced filter, and I'll show it in, like I said, in more detail when I'm ready to show off that beast over there. Like I said, I do have bigger videos on the way, but I wanted to get a lot of these easier videos done first so that you guys can reference them. Anyways, it's been fun, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you next time. Adios.